We did it, guys. 100 strong episodes. Well, mostly strong episodes, minus the first 7 of season 1. 100 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We finally hit that landmark, and it's crazy that a show like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is able to do it justice as opposed to a big blockbuster show like The Walking Dead when they hit their 100 episode, and it was just like, that's it? That's all you got? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was able to subvert that by bringing us a huge episode that wasn't exactly big on special effects or big grandiose events that are very cataclysmic, but it was more internal. It was more about what Joss Whedon originally wanted to do with Age of Ultron, where he wanted the sequel to be a little bit more personal, putting some of the Avengers against themselves, that sort of thing. And even though that could be argued for that sequel, I feel like Jed Whedon, his brother, along with all of the showrunners, I can't pronounce their last names, but those 2 siblings, as well as all the other people that were in charge of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. throughout its 5 seasons thus far, knew that the 100th episode needed to be something significant and something impressive, and something that's going to affect not just the people that are behind the show, but also inside of the show with our characters. And that's precisely what they did on an emotional level. That's what it was all about. It was all centered on the emotional glue that holds the whole team together. And who else could be capable of being an emotional glue for the team other than Coulson himself? And it's cool that the entire episode centers around Coulson finally revealing to the team exactly what is going on with him, while at the same time serving as a little bit of a cipher for the audience within events that transpire in the episode. We knew a couple of episodes back, thanks to Yo-Yo talking to herself in the future, that Coulson is dying. What we did not know, however, is the circumstances of him dying. I was assuming that it was because he got stabbed by that one guy in the chest, but apparently this was something there since Ghost Rider, and we get that reveal here in the episode where this was actually the deal that he made with Ghost Rider to be able to have those powers. And the deal was that in order to the demon of Ghost Rider to jump into him, he needed to get rid of the Kree blood. He pretty much needed to undo the thing that the showrunners or the show creators decided to do with Coulson when he was initially killed by Loki in the Avengers. And now they're undoing that, so it's kind of like erasing the chronological time of what happened with Coulson and the journey that he's made, keeping himself alive. And now he, like even he put it, there's a timer. And it was a huge reveal, not just for the team, but for us as audience members, because it was very rooted within emotion. It was very much an emotional grasp that everybody was trying to kind of cope with. Everybody in this team was very riveted, and everybody also behaved in a very human way in this episode. Very few shows are able to capture the level of performances from these people when they started tearing up, where they reacted. And I'm pretty sure that this was the direction maybe given by the director, Kevin Takura. Like I said, I can't pronounce his last name, but he's one of the main staple directors for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he does another seminal job with this episode. And one of the great things that he did was able to give proper direction for this team, almost as if they had like lost a family member or a loved one got diagnosed with cancer or something like that. I know that's very morbid scenarios, but that they reacted in that similar way. And it makes sense, and it makes these characters all the more human. Especially the scene between Coulson and Daisy when she breaks down. You hardly ever see her break down like that. And to see her that vulnerable and then hug each other, it was just one of the best and one of the more quiet yet very important and very emotional scenes, not just for the episode, but probably for the whole series. But I will admit, the little caveat, the little MacGuffin that gets us to that point of Coulson admitting this to the team was probably one of the only weak things about the episode for me personally, and it is this out of the blue scenario of a tear in the space-time continuum after that bomb exploded in the last episode at the very end, which was a very big cliffhanger that left me impressed, like, oh shit, what's gonna happen there? That thing just blew up. What exactly does this mean for the team? It ended up tearing us a thing into another dimension, as Fitz calls it, a fear dimension. A bunch of Fitz rolling around like Rick and Morty shit. But no, a fear dimension that pretty much releases all of the team's fears within the entire complex of that lighthouse stronghold that they're in. And I did think it was a little bit of an excuse. It felt like something that was intentionally just made for 2 reasons. 1, to get Coulson and make this confession, and 2, to kind of recap on our characters' fears and their greatest enemies that they faced throughout the entire longevity of the show, which was cool to see. It was cool to see Lash again. It was very cool to see Hive again. I kind of lost my shit a little bit when I saw those tentacles. And I'm like, oh, he's back. But being that they were killed off so quickly, and the fact that it was just a way to kind of go down memory lane with these villains, it felt a little gimmicky, just a little bit. But I was able to overlook it because this led to, again, Coulson's vulnerability with the team, revealing his secret. But more importantly, it was him facing that great fear, realizing that he's the only one that he sees as expendable because he's dying. He goes in there to close off the tear, and here he encounters Deathlock, only in a much more human fashion. And this is another great scene because he faces his own fear, and you would think that his fear is going to be a little bit more concrete and straight to the point, but it goes way more complex than that. And what I love the most about it is that it was not only Coulson's fear, but it was our fear as an audience. All of us who watch shows very religiously and we become invested in really big shows that have great storylines, great characters, something that rewards you for sticking with it for so long. What's the most betraying thing to feel when watching a show like that? Is when the show pulls the shit over your face and goes, oh, it was all a dream. It was all a manifestation. And many a show have done that in the past. Lost, and I can't remember, there was this comedy show with Bob Newhart where at the end, it's a very old show, but it was a comedy that went on for several seasons, and then at the very end they pulled that shit where he wakes up and he's like, oh, I just had a very bad dream, and the whole show was a dream. There's several shows that have done that in the past, and it was cool that the writers played with us as a red herring, making us think and having us, shitting our pants that no, you better not do the whole it was all a dream scenario. And it's cool that Coulson's fear was shared with us, and it was his conversation with that manifestation of Deathlock that was able to kind of extrapolate that. And it was cool that it got us guessing for a moment there, but then finally it goes, no, calm down, it's all real, with the real Deathlock as well as various agents come to finally help out the team and get rid of these fears and close the portal. So that was a huge sigh of relief. And arguably one of the most comedic yet really awkward shots in the entire show, with Coulson on top of Deathlock that way. Had me rolling for a good minute. Following that, I did get into the second and only other thing that bothered me about the episode. We quickly jump into the wedding between Fitz and Simmons. And the wedding itself was beautiful. It was set up really nicely within the forest, and it was a really good emotional moment for two characters that we rooted to be together. And it was great that after all of this emotional roller coaster that we were going through, mostly centered on something that's like so dire that it has to deal with confronting death and destruction and all stuff, it's cool to see that the episode ends in a very uplifting moment with the marriage. It's just that the transition from that scene with the portal over to the wedding gave me whiplash, because it was just so jarring that we were in the elevator. I thought to myself that we had just finished closing the portal and we were instantly jumping into the wedding, leading me to believe that that whole thing was going to be like a play on fear, because we saw several fears, and we even had a little bit of a fake out there earlier in the episode with Gemma suffocating Yo-Yo, and it turned out to be an LMD. Makes sense that an LMD is within the confines of the compound, being that all these fears are being released. One of the biggest fears and one of the past villains were a set of LMDs by Ada, etc., etc. But this transition over to the wedding was just so tonally I don't know. It was moving too quickly that it made me believe that something was up. At one point, I even thought that Fitz was the evil Fitz, and maybe that was one of Gemma's greatest fears. But that was not the real Fitz. That was the framework Fitz, because of the way that he was putting on the coat and he was buttoning up and saying, "Oh, so glad." I don't know. There was something off about him. But then it turns out that he was just stalling because he was nervous about the wedding. I didn't know that there was going to be a wedding, at least not in this episode. I knew it was coming, but I just thought that the placement for the wedding was a little weird at the end. And similarly, the twist with Deke being their grandson. It's something that makes sense. It's something that we kind of saw coming, but being revealed here at the end of the episode, it felt a little rushed. It felt just slightly rushed to the point where it's getting me scared that the showrunners and the people writing the show are fast-tracking several different things, because somehow deep down, there's no confirmation, but somehow deep down, they know that the show might be coming to an end. There were a few tidbits here and there of information that we can kind of take away from this episode. Like, once again, Deke continues to be much more likable than he was in outer space, with him discovering new things about the planet and him trying to go down the Universal backlot. Because I will admit, the town turned into a backlot from Universal all of a sudden. I was like, ooh, that was a little weird. I could swear I can see the back of a wall. You know how there's a building and then behind it you can see the things that are holding it up to create a set. I could have sworn I saw that in the background. And then we had the General S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of sort of calling off her search, but at the same time putting it on hold. I don't know what's happening there, but it was just her not doing much, just kind of reminding us that, yeah, she's still after these guys. Okay. But the main focus of this episode, that was to be staple as the 100th episode, was going to be centered around Coulson, because it began with Coulson, and this episode kind of made us aware that it's most likely going to end with Coulson, but not without a fight, and not without giving these characters, especially Coulson, a very proper send-off. And I feel really reassured with that after watching this episode. So even though I couldn't bring myself to fully love it because of some of the issues I had with that whole fear dimension, as well as the breakneck pace of the last third or so of the episode, I still enjoyed it on par with the last one, and I still feel like this show's in capable hands with people that know how to make characters like these that could have easily been basic two-dimensional characters to just get us from one point to another to experience some cool Marvel shit. Very three-dimensional and very human, and it's the little touches that go a long way. So I'm going to be giving The Real Deal episode 100 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a very high and very enthusiastic 8 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 100th episode. What do you expect to happen now, knowing that there's a fail-safe for the people in charge of the show to say, if this is in fact the last season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., how can we go out on a high note by either killing off Coulson or bringing Coulson into a new perspective or doing something different with them, and then the rest of the team can go on their own little spinoff? I don't know. What are your guys' theories and speculations on how this could play out? And please be patient with me, guys, because I understand that besides my little reaction to Smash Brothers on the Switch coming very soon, I didn't really post an awful lot of videos this week, and that's because I just didn't prepare myself enough to create something. But rest assured, I'm doing my due diligence to watch a brand new Spider-Man show, rewatch Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then maybe get back into Spectacular Spider-Man, as well as trying to play some retro games and trying to put some stuff together so I can hopefully upload a shit ton of content within the next couple of weeks. So please stay patient with that, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Pressing the same punch buttons or doing the same combos over and over, eventually it wears out thin, especially when you go through like 5 or 6 waves of enemies and you don't exactly know when the level's going to end. It starts to get a little infuriating. Did I die? Oh, wow, I wasn't even paying attention to my health. Goodness gracious. Oh, for that fucking sake.